Manchester United used to be the biggest club in England.
Out on top as manager of the champions.
But this season, they've found themselves closer to relegation than they are to the European places.
An 8th defeat in 12 Premier League games for Manchester United, who dropped to 15th in the table.
And this is something that has been years in the making. From managers to executives to players, everything surrounding the club has been inconsistent. Everything but the negative media coverage. What makes this situation particularly fascinating is that it's mostly former United players themselves who offer the bulk of the negative coverage. These club legends who now work as pundits and commentators have become some of the most vocal critics of their former team. Let's start with the person who has become the face of United criticism, Roy Keane.
But Man United, Maguire, and De Gea. I wouldn't even let him on the bus after the match. I get a taxi back to Manchester. These are established international players, and we're all sitting here, and I know we have to analyse the game, analyse it to the coach.
For the past decade, Roy Keane always seems to have a viral moment on Sky Sports where he delivers scathing criticisms towards United and its players. And it's somewhat ironic that Keane has found himself in that position because that's what ended his career. On October 29, 2005, after United suffered a humiliating 4-1 defeat to Middlesbrough at the Riverside Stadium, Roy Keane, United's injured captain at the time, was scheduled for his regular segment on MUTV. Rather than offer diplomatic platitudes, Keane unleashed a scathing assessment of his teammates' performances. The Irishman systematically dismantled his colleagues. He questioned Edwin van der Sar's goalkeeping, chastised Rio Ferdinand's defending, and delivered perhaps his most cutting line about Darren Fletcher. He accused younger players of thinking they'd made it after signing contracts, while criticizing experienced players for failing to lead. Ferdinand bore the brunt of Keane's fury after being dispossessed by Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Just because you are paid £120,000 a week and play well for 20 minutes against Tottenham, you think you're a superstar. The club's hierarchy, led by Sir Alex Ferguson, immediately moved to suppress the footage. A team meeting was called where the video was played to the squad. Rio Ferdinand described the atmosphere as horrendous, and a heated argument erupted between Keane and Ferguson. The following day, Ferguson gathered the team and made a shocking announcement. Roy Keane would never play for Manchester United again. The club fined Keane £5,000 and sought to destroy all copies of the tape. Ferguson later explained that if he had let the incident pass, the players would have viewed him differently, and his authority would have been compromised. The club honoured Keane's contract in full and even provided him with a testimonial the following season, but Keane never let it go.
Ferguson.
Not since then, obviously.
Not one conversation.
I think when he apologises to me, I probably will say hello to him, yeah. No interest in speaking to the man.
Nothing even over the past year, the ill health, made you think, maybe I'll just give him a call, maybe life's too short.
No. When he apologises to me, and David Gill.
Keane has also recently come out and said that he isn't a United fan, which paints his criticisms in a different light. This lingering bitterness has shaped his punditry, where his recent criticisms of the club and its players have grown increasingly harsh and personal.
But I've been a manager, you're going to a match with players and you're looking over your shoulder on the bus and you see Shaw, Maguire, Fred and these boys, you're going, my job depends on these guys. Then you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're on about being in the trenches with...
This shift in tone raises questions about whether his detachment from the club has turned his commentary into more of a personal vendetta than a constructive critique. But as harsh as Keane can be, he's always been a blunt person who tells it like it is. The same thing can't be said about Rio Ferdinand. When Sir Alex Ferguson handed over the reins of Manchester United to David Moyes in 2013, few could have predicted the storm of internal resistance that would contribute to the new manager's downfall. At the heart of this resistance stood Rio Ferdinand, and his influence in the dressing room would prove both powerful and problematic. Rio never respected Moyes, and even to this day, he still questions his approach.
David Moyes his hand was on everything at the club. He was doing He was involved in the scouting, he was involved in the analysis of opposing teams, he was involved in the physiotherapy, the doctors, he was involved in taking every training session, he was involved in every team meeting, every video that was being done. He was involved in everything.
Isn't that a man who has to get this job right? And
you can do that. You can do that. No disrespect, at a club like Everton, where the demands aren't as big. A club like Manchester United, you've got to delegate, and that was one of the best. The best traits that Sir Alex Ferguson had. He delegated, and yes, he trusted other people.
In the end, Moyes would become the first victim of the incompetent United board and the player power culture that Rio helped create and still perpetuates to this day. Rio didn't even wait for Ruben Amorim to take charge of his first game before he criticized him for his backroom decisions. This cycle of toxicity is further amplified by former players becoming mouthpieces for the current players' locker room frustrations. And no one is more guilty of this than Paul Scholes. His pattern began in April 2022 when he revealed private conversations with Jesse Lingard that undercut then-manager Ralf Rangnick's position as manager.
It's an absolute mess. It's a disaster of a dressing room. I had a quick chat with Jesse there. I'm sure he won't mind me saying it. The dressing room's just a disaster.
Paul Scholes has also had highly publicised feuds with Anthony and Marcus Rashford, both of whom have left United on loan and are already performing much better now that they are out of the spotlight that follows every United player. And then there's Gary Neville.
He has died in a ditch in respect of when he said very early on, I'm not going to change my ideas, so now he can't. And that's, I suppose, an issue in some ways, because I do think there were probably, with those 11 players he had out on the pitch there, a better way of probably getting them into a system which would have meant they'd have felt more comfortable. But he can't change that now because of what he said previously. He's really sort of stuck his flag in the ground, and sort of that's the way in which he's going to go down. But
I don't need to go into why Neville's opinions on football management shouldn't be taken seriously, but what makes Neville's commentary particularly problematic is the apparent need to continually escalate his criticisms. As Alan Tyers noted in The Telegraph, there seems to be a pattern. United play badly, Gary and Roy sneer and slate, and deliberately or not, the temptation is naturally for them to keep topping their remarks from the week before. Under-9's football last week, Under-5's next week. This escalation creates a cycle where each poor United performance must be met with increasingly hyperbolic condemnation, turning what should be insightful analysis into something resembling a performance. It's as if Neville feels compelled to prove his impartiality by being especially harsh on his former club. Many United fans have begun questioning why Neville's most trenchant criticisms are reserved for players and coaches rather than the club's ownership and executives, while Amorim struggles to cobble together a matchday squad of teenagers and mediocrities. Neville, who sits on an Old Trafford regeneration task force, rarely directs similar ire towards Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the penny-pinching, floundering Old Trafford top brass. This selective criticism appears particularly problematic given Neville's business interests in Manchester, including his hotel and property development ventures. It has become increasingly clear that Man United will never get better until their media situation improves, and with the negative rhetoric already spinning against Amorim, don't be surprised if this cycle starts again with a new manager soon. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, share your thoughts in the comments section. Do you think Amorim will last longer than Ten Hag?